school's out, blame corona, but I still got some science I could show ya. No class, no school, that's cool, throw the class on the YouTube. Even if they shut the school down, I'll get that knowledge anyway somehow. Real scholars won't stop for corona. Tune in for that science takeover.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Mrs. Finney's science class. Today is Monday, March 23rd, 2020. We are in our second week of online science class. Give yourselves a round of applause for joining in. Shout out again to the HB Warriors and to all of our subscribers for coming to learn from my house to your house. We have science. We're going to get started today. We are in our TCi program called Cells and Genetics. Lesson 5, Controlling Body Systems. Section 6 today, Regions of the Brain. Learning objective. I can explain why different regions of the brain are responsible for different types of information. Let's jump right into it. There's someone we're going to learn about today. Very important guy. Contributed a lot to science. Check this out. In the 1950s, a man known as HM underwent surgery to remove a part of his brain that was causing seizures, which is a condition in which a person can lose consciousness or suddenly shake all over his or her body. He had a normal memory before the surgery, but afterwards, he could not form new memories. He was still able to walk, talk, and perform short tasks. He could even recall things from childhood, but he could not learn any new information. So I'm going to jump into his story. I want to share this through a video on YouTube so you can get a visual for what's going on. All right. Before we do that, the gentleman, his name, he's known as HM, but his name is Henry Molaison. All right. And he was born February 26th, 1926 in Manchester, Connecticut, died December 2nd, 2008 at the age of 82 in Windsor, Connecticut. Let's jump into HM's story.
On September 1st, 1953, William Scoville used a hand crank and a cheap drill saw to bore into a young man's skull, cutting away vital pieces of his brain and sucking them out through a metal tube. But this wasn't a scene from a horror film or a gruesome police report. Dr. Scoville was one of the most renowned neurosurgeons of his time, and the young man was Henry Molaison, the famous patient known as HM, whose case provided amazing insights into how our brains work. As a boy, Henry had cracked his skull in an accident and soon began having seizures, blacking out, and losing control of bodily functions. After enduring years of frequent episodes and even dropping out of high school, the desperate young man had turned to Dr. Scoville, a daredevil known for risky surgeries. Partial lobotomies had been used for decades to treat mental patients, based on the notion that mental functions were strictly localized to corresponding brain areas. Having successfully used them to reduce seizures in psychotics, Scoville decided to remove HM's hippocampus, a part of the limbic system that was associated with emotion, but whose function was unknown. At first glance, the operation had succeeded. HM's seizures virtually disappeared, with no change in personality, and his IQ even improved. But there was one problem. His memory was shot. Besides losing most of his memories from the previous decade, HM was unable to form new ones, forgetting what day it was, repeating comments, and even eating multiple meals in a row. When Scoville informed another expert, Wilder Penfield, of the results, he sent a PhD student named Brenda Milner to study HM at his parents' home, where he now spent his days doing odd chores and watching classic movies for the first time, over and over. What she discovered through a series of tests and interviews didn't just contribute greatly to the study of memory. It redefined what memory even meant. One of Milner's findings shed light on the obvious fact that although HM couldn't form new memories, he still retained information long enough from moment to moment to finish a sentence or find the bathroom. When Milner gave him a random number, He managed to remember it for 15 minutes by repeating it to himself constantly. But only 5 minutes later, he forgot the test had even taken place. Neuroscientists had thought of memory as monolithic, all of it essentially the same and stored throughout the brain. Milner's results were not only the first clue for the now familiar distinction between short-term and long-term memory, but showed that each uses different brain regions. We now know that memory formation involves several steps. After immediate sensory data is temporarily transcribed by neurons in the cortex, it travels to the hippocampus, where special proteins work to strengthen the cortical synaptic connections. If the experience was strong enough, or we recall it periodically in the first few days, the hippocampus then transfers the memory back to the cortex for permanent storage. HM's mind could form the initial impressions, but without a hippocampus to perform this memory consolidation, they eroded like messages scrawled in sand. But this was not the only memory distinction Milner found. In a now famous experiment, she asked HM to trace a third star in the narrow space between the outlines of two concentric ones, while he could only see his paper and pencil through a mirror. Like anyone else performing such an awkward task for the first time, he did horribly. But surprisingly, he improved over repeated trials, even though he had no memory of previous attempts. His unconscious motor centers remembered what the conscious mind had forgotten. What Milner had discovered was that the declarative memory of names, dates, and facts is different from the procedural memory of riding a bicycle or signing your name. And we now know that procedural memory relies more on the basal ganglia and cerebellum, structures that were intact in HM's brain. This distinction between knowing that and knowing how has underpinned all memory research since. HM died at the age of 82 after a mostly peaceful life in a nursing home. Over the years, he had been examined by more than 100 neuroscientists, making his the most studied mind in history. Upon his death, his brain was preserved and scanned before being cut into over 2,000 individual slices and photographed to form a digital map down to the level of individual neurons, all in a live broadcast watched by 400,000 people. Though HM spent most of his life forgetting things, he and his contributions to our understanding of memory will be remembered for generations to come.
Wow, what an amazing story. So imagine that somebody allowed neurosurgeons to perform brain surgery and make discoveries and help us to know the different things we know about the brain today. So from HM surgery, scientists realized that the parts of HM's brain that were removed, including part of the hippocampus, were needed for forming new memories. Why did his surgery only affect his memory, but not other things that the brain controls? How is it possible to remove portions of a person's brain and the person remains alive after the surgery? So here we have an image of regions of information processing in the brain. All right, check this out. So we have a region for speech, a region for motor control, a region for touch and pressure, region for taste, okay, region for body awareness, a region for language, it's a region of your brain for vision, there's a region used for reading, all right, and also a region for hearing, all right, pretty cool, right? So evidence from studying HM and the brains of other patients has supported the claim that different regions of the brain are important for processing different kinds of signals. For example, vision is processed by a region near the back of your brain known as the visual cortex. This is because the eye's sense receptors connect to the visual cortex. Odors, tastes, and sounds are all processed in different regions of the brain. As scientists learn from HM, even something as complicated as making new memories happens mostly in one part of the brain. However, some signals are processed in more than one region, like the process of painting. The visual cortex of the brain is used to analyze the shapes and colors on the canvas, and the motor region of the brain is used to move your hand. All right? So from this, scientists have learned that an injury to a particular region of the brain results in a loss of a specific function rather than a loss of all functions. Key thing to note. For example, if someone has had an injury to the vision section of their brain, it will not injure their hearing. This predictable cause and effect pattern also works for understanding diseases. Alzheimer's disease affects the creation of new memories. Predictably, neurons in the hippocampus are some of the first cells to be affected by this disease. Similarly, Lou Gehrig's disease, also known as amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, injures motor neurons, especially in a motor control region of the brain. Scientists now have techniques for studying brain regions in non-injured brains. Cool. Imaging technologies are used to see which regions of the brain are being used when certain types of information are being processed. Functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI devices are used to see in real time which regions are sending or receiving signals in response to a stimulus. All right, take a look at this video.
It was unexpected. He had been having a little problem when he was playing tennis with dizziness and blurred vision. And then finally, one of the physicians ordered an MRI. The MRI showed a golf ball sized tumor on his brain stem, and we met with Dr. Honeycutt later that afternoon. He did a really good job of putting it in layman's terms. I kind of have a science background, so I understood a little more. It's better to have it simplified and just broken down.
When I talk to families about surgeries, my number one goal is always try to get them to trust me to take care of their child. Because if there's not that trust factor between the families and you, things just don't go well. Once they trust you, then you have to then sort of explain the details of what you're doing. Every day is a little bit different. We sort of have 2 days to describe. The first day is the one you probably think about as being a neurosurgeon. That's an operative day. Get to the hospital about 7 o'clock. We'll see the families, make sure that everybody's on the same page for surgery. Anywhere from one huge case that lasts all day to several small cases. We're always ready for the unexpected. It's almost like preparing for a football game. So you have this plan of attack that you want to do for the case, and you have that in plan, but then you also have plan A, B, C, and D. And if that first plan doesn't work, you move on to the next one.
The week after Thanksgiving, he had his surgery. It was about a 10-hour surgery. They took care of him, but they also took care of us. While he was a fragile patient, we were fragile parents.
And the other day we do is sort of our clinic day. And so just like a general practitioner, we go and we see patients in clinic. It's a constant sort of keeping the brush fires at bay. We have created over time several multidisciplinary approaches. We've learned that if you get this team approach and you get multiple minds into it, it works better. It requires more time, it requires more effort to get it up and running, but once it's there, you sort of get this cooperation, and people, it makes it very nice that we come as a team to the family and say, this is what we need to do, we want to do this, this, and this. It just really opens up a whole world of possibilities that these kids, I don't think we're getting beforehand.
I know it's because of the care he got here at Cook's and the way they took care of things. They never let anything get to a point that they couldn't deal with it.
All the hospitals look kind of the same once you've been in a couple of them, but it's the people in them that really matters. Personalities, how they approach things, and it doesn't take very long to be in a hospital to figure out what that personality is.
Thank you for tuning in to that video. Perhaps in the future you'll be a neurosurgeon. Let's take a look a little into that career. neurosurgeon training and certification. So the education needed to become a neurosurgeon is rigorous and extensive, requiring no less than 4 years of undergraduate studies, 4 years of medical school, and 5 to 7 years of fellowship training. After receiving their state medical license, neurosurgeons need to practice for several years before they are even eligible to obtain board certification through the American Board of Neurological Surgery, ABNS. And here's a link if you want to look into that a little further. So taking a look at salary.com, the average neurosurgeon salary in the United States is $607,101,000. Wait, I said that wrong. Taking a look at salary.com, the average neurosurgeon salary in the United States is $607,101 as of February 26, 2020. But the range typically falls between $457,001 and $768,201. Salary ranges can vary widely depending on many important factors. So that may be a career field you may want to look into. Neurosurgeon, we need them. All right. So I want to get into our wrap-up questions for today. Before doing so, let's come back here. All right. Today's wrap-up information, we want to make sure we tap into this information for today. All right. So in today, what did we learn? HM, Henry Malaysian surgery. HM had surgery to remove the part of his brain that caused seizures. Okay. After the surgery, he could not form new memory. Scientists learned that the parts of his brain that was removed, which included the hippocampus, was responsible for forming new memories. Further evidence proved that different regions of the brain are responsible for processing different kinds of signals. So, in today, you should have learned how to explain why different regions of the brain are responsible for different types of information. Let's get into our wrap-up questions. Why did HM have surgery in the 1950s? Let's take a look. Hopefully you have the answer. So why did he have surgery in the 1950s? HM underwent surgery to remove a part of his brain that was causing seizures, a condition in which a person can lose consciousness or suddenly shake all over his or her body. All right. Number 2, what happened after HM surgery? You tell me. You tell me. What happened after HM's surgery? Okay, hopefully you know that HM was unable to form new memories. Correct. Here we go. Number 3, what did scientists learn from HM surgery? What did they learn? Mike's on you. Good job. Okay. Scientists learned that the parts of HM's brain that were removed, including part of the hippocampus, were needed for forming new memories. Okay. Why did his surgery only affect his memory but not other things that the brain controls? Key takeaway for today, actually. All right. Evidence from studying HM and the brains of other patients has supported the claim that different regions of the brain are important for processing different kinds of signals. Key takeaway for today. All right. Are signals always processed in one part of the brain? Yes or no? Use the example of painting to explain your answer. Mike's on you. Okay. No, signals aren't always processed in one part of the brain. Some signals are processed in more than one region. The process of painting is processed in more than one region. The visual cortex of the brain is used to analyze the shapes and colors on the canvas. And the motor region of the brain is used to move your hand when you're painting. Number 6, what does Alzheimer's disease affect? What does it affect? Mike's on you. Please put that in a complete sentence. Restate the question. All right, all right. Alzheimer's disease affects the creation of new memories. Nice work. How are scientists now able to study brain regions? You tell me. I know you know this stuff. Scientists use imaging technologies to see which regions of the brain are being used when certain types of information are being processed. All right, next piece. What is a neurosurgeon? In your own words. Mike's on you. Okay. A neurosurgeon is a medical specialist who treats diseases and conditions affecting the nervous system, which includes the brain, the spine, and spinal cord, and the peripheral nerves. That could be you in the future. The future is yours. All right, everybody. Great job with the wrap-up questions. We are wrapping up with our outro. Here we go. It's been fun. It's been real. We break it down and pick up science skills. Give yourselves 2 claps just for tuning in. Come back, meet tomorrow. We can learn again. Oh, it's been fun. It's been real. We break it down and pick up science skills. Give yourself 2 claps just for tuning in. Come back, meet tomorrow. We can learn again. See you next time. Peace.